Hello everyone, welcome to Lukmaan IAS. Today we are going to have the Hindu newspaper analysis dated 9th of November 2023. In today's newspaper analysis, we are going to cover a mapping topic and then we are going to cover important articles from the newspaper. Along with this, we have also included some questions for discussion. So now let us quickly see the list of articles that we are going to discuss in today's newspaper analysis. So these are the articles. Apart from this, their page number and syllabus is mentioned in the let's say screen. So let us start the discussion with the mapping topic first. So name of the topic is Strait of Malacca. So this Strait of Malacca has been in news. It is in news today also. So that's why we have thought of including this topic. So as we all know that a strait, right? A strait is a geographical feature. Okay, a strait is a geographical feature. Okay, it's a geographical feature. So what is a strait? A strait is a narrow channel of water that connects two water bodies, and it has a characteristics that a strait separates two land masses. Okay, so when we talk about the Strait of Malacca, where is it located? This is the, let's say, location of a Strait of Malacca. So this is a narrow channel of water that connects two water bodies. On the left side we have Indian Ocean. Left side means on the western part, on the western side of it, western side of the Strait of Malacca, we have this Indian Ocean. On the eastern side of it, over here, we have South China Sea. Here we have South China Sea, or we can say, if we go little further also, this is the Pacific Ocean. Okay, so this is the Pacific Ocean. So to be broad, we can say that the Strait of Malacca connects Indian Ocean with Pacific Ocean. That way also it can be said. So what is the significance of the Strait of Malacca? Why we are reading about the Strait of Malacca? Basically, Strait of Malacca is very narrow. However, it does have lot of, let's say, economic significance, because it acts as a, let's say, route through which huge number of ships pass, right? Commercial ships pass through it, and also naval ships also pass through it, the Strait of Malacca. And since it has huge economic importance, so that's why it is also a part of geopolitical, right? It is also a part of geopolitical interest, right, of many countries. For example, the United States of America also has an interest in the Strait of Malacca, because what it wants and it proposes and it, let's say, upholds the right of free navigation through the sea routes through the Strait of Malacca also. However, Chinese government last year, what they have done, they have stationed their armed forces, they have stationed their naval power, they have stationed their air force nearby the Strait of Malacca. So today we are going to discuss about an article based on, let's say, the geopolitics around the states of Strait of Malacca. So this Strait of Malacca is located between two, two regions. So on the left side we have the island of Sumatra. Okay, this is Sumatran island, and on the right side this is known as Malay Peninsula. Okay, on the right side it is known as Malay Peninsula. Okay, on the right side it is known as Malay Peninsula. On the left side it is known as island of Sumatra. So between Sumatra and Malay Peninsula, this is the Strait of Malacca. So Strait of Malacca connects two water bodies. On the left side we have Indian Ocean, on the right side we have South China Sea, we can say. And if you want to see ocean, so it is the Pacific Ocean, which is little ahead than this South China Sea region also. So this is an important region that we need to understand, right? So this region remains in news for many geopolitical regions. Okay, so we have also included the description related to Strait of Malacca. In your free time you can go through it, right? So you can also download this PDF to learn more about it. So now we are going to discuss about a topic. This topic is important under GS paper 1, right? GS paper 1, which is related to history, right? It's related to history. And under GS paper 2, it's related to international relations. Okay, so this is the thing. So this topic is really important. This topic has been written by Mr. Shashi Tharoor. As we all know, he is a parliamentarian and he is a person who is, let's say, bestowed with the best of vocabularies that, like, any Indian can have, right? So he has one of the best vocabularies. So the words that he writes, many a times, like, people face it difficult to understand them. But the thing is, like, he has a very good command over English, right? So this is the thing. So it says an under-stressed facet of colonial history. So through this article, basically, like, Mr. Shashi Tharoor traces back the history of, let's say, indentured labor, indentured labor. So these labor have been, let's say, like, there are some Indian people who have been transported from the Indian subcontinent to many other places. They have been transported to Ceylon, as we know, Sri Lanka today, right? So those people have completed their 200 years of their, let's say, like, ancestors' visit to Sri Lanka. So recently, like, Colombo means, Colombo is the capital of Sri Lanka. So in Colombo, they have conducted an event which is known as NAM 200. So in this event, they have invited Mr. Shashi Tharoor also to speak, right, on behalf of the Indian expatriates, on behalf of the Indian citizens who have migrated, right, Indian people who have migrated long back, 200 years back to Sri Lanka. So on that occasion, he has given a speech, right, about, let's say, like, history of this kind of migration of the indentured labor, and also he has talked about the colonial history, right, related to it. Yes. So we will discuss about it, right? Just a minute. So name of the topic is the topic that we are discussing today. The name of the topic is an under-discussed facet of colonial history. An under-discussed facet of colonial history. So we need to discuss about this topic, okay? So this topic has been written in the context of our recent conclave, a recent meeting that has happened in Colombo, okay? This meeting has happened where? In Colombo. Colombo is the capital of Sri Lanka, okay? It is the capital of Sri Lanka. So this kind of meeting that was organized, it was named as NAM, NAAM, NAM 200. So this demarcates 200 years of colonial history, right? 200 years of movement of whom? Indentured laborers, okay? Indentured laborers. So let's discuss about what do we mean by the keywords indentured laborers. So basically, like, if we talk about 200 years back, if we talk about 1823, right? So 200 years back means these people have migrated to Sri Lanka in 1823. So we are in 2023, okay? So at that point of time, India was, right? India was under, like, colonial rule. India was under colonial rule. So, like, who were ruling on India? It is the United Kingdom. It is the, let's say, like, it is the United Kingdom, as we know, let's say, like, Britain, Great Britain as well. So they were ruling on India. It means, like, Indian citizens have not, let's say, like, have not created laws for themselves at that point of time. I mean, like, it was a country which was largely divided into small kingdoms. But then Great Britain came, like, Great Britain came long back. Like, if we talk about the history of the arrival of the, let's say, Western people. So there were many people who have come to India. Okay. Okay, maybe. Yeah. So, hello. So Indraveer has joined. Vijay Lal has also joined. Good evening to all of you who have joined today's discussion. So we are discussing about this, let's say the concept of indentured labor. So as we know that colonial, India was under colonial rule, and it is not the only country. India was not the only country that was being ruled by a colonial power. In fact, the United Kingdom has ruled over most parts of the world. They have sent their people and they have ruled over most parts of the world. Many parts of the world have been under their colonial rule. So that's the thing. And during the rule of Great Britain on India, at that point of time, those people who are working under, let's say, like East India Company, so they were not given any kind of labor rights. Okay, so as the thing that as we know today, there exists something, these are known as labor rights, right? So these labor rights were largely not known, like, you know, labor rights, or if we talk about human rights, right, human rights. So these were largely not given to the laborer people. So if we talk about, there is an organization which is known as International Labour Organization, ILO. ILO has created its first convention, right? The first convention, that first convention talked about the rights of the laborers, right? And that first convention was created by International Labour Organization in 1919. At that point of time, the International Labour Organization has said that people should work for at most 8 hours a day, so that they get proper time for their family, they get proper time for resting as well. Okay, so they have created a kind of, let's say, thing which is 8 hours of work, right? 8 hours of work per day. But this concept, I mean, like, you know, was popularized by International Labour Organization through its first convention, the first convention that came in 1919. But now we are talking about a time period, the time period of 1823. At that point of time, I mean, like in India, huge number of people were there, so huge number of population was there. Largely, many of the people, let's say, did not have their own land. Some people who had their own land, so they were involved in kind of agricultural practices. But the thing is, Britishers have also influenced the kind of agricultural practice that people were doing. So Britishers have forced them to grow opium. So opium cultivation was forced in many places. Like, you know, it is also known as Neil cultivation, like that. You might have heard about this. But the thing is, like, you know, at that point of time, so the Great Britain had its colony, like, you know, they have created its colony in Sri Lanka. They had, like, India was a colony of it. And they needed laborers who can work in the, let's say, like, you know, in the states. These are known as tea states or coffee states. Okay, these are known as tea states, ESTA, tea states or coffee states, right? Coffee states. So when we talk about in tea states, generally in tea states they needed about, let's say, like, you know, 8 people, right? 8 people, 6 to 8 people to work per hectare. But in coffee states they needed only 3 people. So the thing is, related to tea states, they needed huge number of people who can work in the cultivation works in the tea states that were being grown by the UK government. I mean, like, you know, at that point of time. So the thing is, like, you know, they took the laborers from India, they have, let's say, migrated them to like colonial period. I mean, like, they have migrated to Ceylon. So earlier Sri Lanka was, like, you know, Sri Lanka in history, right? It is known as Ceylon, Ceylon. So this was the name of Sri Lanka, like earlier, before it became independent nation, before, let's say, they have started the form of government that is there today. So earlier it was known as Ceylon. So they have taken people from India, they have migrated them to Ceylon. After taking them, these people were denied any kind of labor rights. They did not have labor rights. I mean, like, you know, those people were forced to do work. These people went there in hope of, let's say, like, you know, getting livelihood, in hope of, let's say, doing work. But after they migrated over there, they realized that, like, you know, they do not have any rights. They do not have their basic rights also. I mean, like, you know, they could not decide how much money they will be getting out of the work that they are doing. And also, let's say, the benefits were largely not known to those people. So these people were tortured in a way that, like, you know, forced laborers, like in fact we can say them to be like it was a kind of forced labor, right, indentured labor. So these people were doing labor work, but it was kind of forced labor, and these people were not let's say free enough to come back to India. So once they have migrated, they had to stay there for long period. I mean, like they had to stay there, right? So without the wishes of the British government, they cannot come back. So it is kind of their rights were curtailed over there. So like they were treated like slaves. Okay, so these people, I mean like migrant people. So they were treated like slaves, and at the same time they did not have proper rights. They did not have human rights, they did not have, let's say, labor rights, etc. So these things were denied from those people. So now if we talk about the Great Britain at that point of time, those people who have migrated from India to Ceylon, from India to Sri Lanka. Now let us quickly draw a map of Sri Lanka also to understand, right? So let's say this is the map of India, and this is where the Sri Lanka as a country is located. So I'll take another color, right? So this is a country, this is Sri Lanka. Okay, this is where Sri Lanka is located. So once these people have gone there, these people were denied the right of coming back. Okay, so these people have settled there. These people are known as indentured labor. I mean like indentured labor means like they went for doing labor work, but they realized that their rights are curtailed. They do not have proper rights to come back also. So they have settled over there. They have had their next generation, they have had their next to next generation. Now if we talk about Sri Lanka, there are many people who are Tamilian people. So generally Tamil people have been taken. Okay, Tamil people have been taken from India to Sri Lanka, and still these people are, let's say, like struggling to get rights as like similar rights as that of Sri Lankan people. So Sri Lankan Sinhalese people are there. So these people denied them their basic rights. So there were racial discrimination also. So there have been histories of warfare. Sri Lanka has been into a kind of civil war for a long time. Okay, it was in a state of civil war for a long time. And during the civil war, especially those people who have migrated to Sri Lanka from other countries, those people who have migrated from India, right? So these people were treated as someone foreigners, right? So these people were denied their basic rights. Even these people had their children. So those children, they were born in Sri Lanka, but like they did not have Sri Lankan citizenship right. Still this thing is there. So in this article they have said that still people in Sri Lanka who have migrated from India, they struggle to get proper rights, right? So still that thing is happening. But the thing is like Indian government has created greater ties with Sri Lanka, and there is now a wider acceptance among Sri Lankan people that like those people who have migrated from India, now these people who are residing, so they are their children's grandchildren, great grandchildren and all. So the thing is they are also equally as Sri Lankan as they are, let's say like they might be having Indian origin also. So government of India has recently supported Sri Lanka. I mean like Sri Lanka has recently gone through a huge phase of economic turmoil. Okay, it has gone through economic hardships, right? Economic hardships. So they have faced balance of payment crisis, and the International Monetary Fund, IMF, right? IMF has assisted them. They have given their first tranche of money, and government of India was among the first countries, right, to come forward to support Sri Lanka, so that it can come out of debt. Okay, so India and Sri Lanka has fostered greater ties. But the thing is like since governments keep on changing in Sri Lanka also the way it changes in India. So some government is, let's say, towards China and they have anti-India stance. Some other governments have pro-Indian stance and anti-China stance. But the thing is like when we talk about countries like India and Sri Lanka, these countries have lifetime which is way beyond the lifetime of a person or of a, let's say, political leader. A political leader may be elected for about 5 years. He may, let's say, get the tenure once more, 10 years, 15 years. But after then, the tenureship of the government keeps on changing. But the long-lasting policy that exists between these countries is largely defined by the interest of these nations, like what kind of interest they want to foster with one another. So that's the thing. So at this point of time, like India and Sri Lanka does have a great tie between one another, and recently the finance minister of India has also visited Sri Lanka. She has talked about building the Buddhist ties. I mean, like we already have Buddhist ties during the, let's say, long back. If we go to ancient history also, King Ashoka has sent mission where he has sent his daughter Sangamitra, right, to Sri Lanka to plant the first generation sapling of Bodhi tree. That Bodhi tree is there in Bodh Gaya in India. So they have planted there in Sri Radhapuram. So there is a place, it is known as Sri Radhapuram, I think. So there they have planted the first sapling of the Bodhi tree. Still, let's say, like, you know, that Bodhi trees, like, let's say further branches are still there. So it talks about the ties, and like, you know, there are mythical ties also. If we talk about Ramayana, so Ramayana, I mean, like, you know, Ravan, Sri Lanka is considered to be the home of Ravan. So that kind of ties is there, right? So although like it is seen negatively in India, Ravan is portrayed as a character negative. But if we talk about Sri Lanka, if you go to Sri Lanka, there are people, huge number of people who worship Ravan, right? This is the case.
Sir, one thing.
Yes.
Can you go back to the slide?
I'll go back to the slide, yes.
Sir, this
Previous slide or this one?
this one.
Okay.
Sir, is it Ram Setu in between India and
Yeah,
Sri Lanka?
this is Ram Setu. They have named it that way. Okay, they have named it that way. Huh?
What is its original name?
Adams Bridge. Matlab, like it is known as Adams Bridge. There is a bridge, it is known as Adams Bridge. But in Hindi, we say it to be Ram Setu, like that. यहाँ पे पंबन ब्रिज भी है, और there are many places over here. If we zoom the map, so we will come across a place that is connected, deeply connected with the late President of India, APJ Abdul Kalam. What is the name of the place? Rameshwaram. So Rameshwaram is also there, right? So these are the things. I mean, like, you know, it's a great tourist attraction also, that place. Okay, people go. I mean, like, you can go to long stretch. I mean, like, you know, you can drive your car, but after some time you will be, let's say, like, you know, somewhere in the sea, but beyond which, like, you cannot go. It's like that. So they have extended that thing over this Adams Bridge. Okay, so this is the thing. So Mr. Shashi Tharoor is saying that Sri Lankan tea and Indian Tamil. So, like, you know, Sri Lankan tea state, I mean, like, in India and Sri Lanka had developed ties in that perspective also historically, and an identity and a journey of integration. Means, like, you know, these people who have migrated, so their children, great grandchildren or grandchildren, so they are still struggling to get their identity established as Sri Lankan citizens. But the thing is, it says the bicentenary of the arrival of the Tamil indentured laborers in Sri Lanka also points to the unfulfilled task of nation building in the island nation. So they need to build a nation. Already this is a nation, but, like, you know, there should be close ties between people, and people of Sri Lanka should accept the Tamilian people as their brothers, like, you know, as the people who reside, like, you know, with them over there. So like Prabhu Kumar has also joined. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for joining. Now we have another topic. It says Taiwan, a Malacca blockade and India's options. Now, like, we have discussed about Malacca, what Malacca Strait. Just in the beginning of the lecture today, we discussed about Malacca Strait. So if I draw the Malacca Strait right now, okay, so if I draw, so let me take a color. Let's say this is the kind of Malacca Strait, and on one side of the Malacca Strait over here, right, on one side of it, so we have Sumatra. So this is Sumatra. This is known as Malay Peninsula. This water body, okay, this water body over here, this is known as Malacca, okay, Strait, okay, Malacca Strait. So in this article, the article that we are going to discuss now, in this article the author has basically discussed about the relation, right, relation between India, China and United States of America when we talk about the Malaccan Strait. So it says Taiwan a Malacca blockade and India's option. Okay, a Malacca blockade and India's option. So now let us, before we go understanding this particular topic, let us understand the relation between China and Taiwan. Okay, China and Taiwan. The thing is, China is the mainland China. It is the mainland China, which is big geographically. Taiwan is a small region which is to the south of China. Okay, so Taiwan, so this is also, they also recognize themselves as China, but they recognize themselves as a separate China. But the thing is, mainland China, which is big in size, so they consider Taiwan to be its own territory. They consider Taiwan to be its own territory. So this China has a policy which is known as One China policy. Okay, it has a policy which is known as One China policy. So under this policy, it says that all those countries that want to have good relationship with China, right, that want to have trade relations, diplomatic relations with China, so they should consider Taiwan to be an integral part of China. They should consider Taiwan to be an integral part of China. They should not give separate recognition to Taiwan as a different country. Okay, so this is the viewpoint of China, and largely those countries who have diplomatic ties, who have trade relations with China, right, and China is also a very good geopolitical power, and China is a member of the United Nations Security Council also. So many countries do not recognize Taiwan as a separate state, as an independent sovereign country. But if we talk about Taiwan, it has been recognized by, I think, more than 8 states. States means countries. In international relations, states are known as countries. So they have been recognized by around 8 countries as an independent nation. But if we talk about Taiwan, China is a member of the United Nations organization. It is a permanent member of the UNSC also. If we talk about Taiwan, it is not a member of the United Nations. I mean, so it is the thing. So this China and Taiwan, they do have the, let's say, this kind of tussle that is happening. Taiwan wants to proclaim that it is a sovereign state. It does maintain its relations and all. And the thing is, Taiwan has its own government, right? They have its own government. They have everything working over there. But because of One China policy of China, this is not being recognized by many countries as a separate nation. Okay, so this is the tussle that is happening. And what China keeps on doing, China sometimes, let's say, station its military forces. They station their naval forces, air, let's say, air power in the waters around Taiwan. So last year, what it has done, it has, let's say, stationed some naval forces, naval ships and air force thing really nearby the Malacca Strait also. They have done, right? They have stationed over there. So when it has stationed this particular thing, so this, let's say, this step of China was totally condemned by the United States of America. It was totally condemned by USA. USA is geographically very far away from China. It is geographically very far away from Taiwan. But the thing is, USA does have an interest over there, because USA is the, if we talk about in terms of economic power, it is the, let's say, it is the most powerful country in the nation, in the world. And in terms of military capacity also, it is one of the, let's say, it is considered to be the most powerful nation in the world. That's the thing. So if we talk about the headquarters of the United Nations organization or UNGA, etc., so they are also located in Washington DC. So they do have huge influence in these big bodies. But the thing is, why United States of America is interested in the Malacca Strait? Because the thing is, huge number of merchant ships, merchant vessels pass through the Malacca Strait. So that's why there is a let's say there is a law also which is known as UNCLOS, United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Okay, this United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea says there should be free navigation of, let's say, like, merchant vessels. There should be free navigation of commercial ships, right? So they talk about free navigation of commercial ships through water bodies. Okay, it should have free navigation. So that's why USA also upholds this particular principle, that there should be free navigation. And since Chinese government has stationed their naval forces, their air forces in the Malacca Strait, so that this was being opposed by the United States of America. And in this article also the author is saying that, like, this particular development has led to a kind of tension between USA and China. And they are the parties that are, let's say, anti to one another in many areas. Okay, these parties are anti to one another in many areas. But the thing is, like, author suggests that, like, if the thing would have escalated to a greater extent, if it would have escalated to a bigger extent, so what should have been the position of India? Should India also, let's say, like, start intervening into this particular thing? So author says, like, India has very little interest in this particular area. Why little interest? Since, like, India is also a major player in terms of economy, means, like, we are also doing huge amount of export import business. And since we are involved in export import business, and more than 90%, right, more than 90% of the export or import, right, export or import that happens in goods, right, that happens in goods, so they pass through, right, they pass through what? They pass through seas, right, they pass through oceans, means, like, they pass through water bodies. So the thing is, these sea play a greater role. So that's why, since Indian ships would also go through here, so India will also have some position over here. But, like, India is not a directly conflicting party in this region, because, like, this Malacca Strait does not belong to India. There are many other countries also in this region that have their sovereign water over here. So they are also interested party in this region. So the thing is, like, what India would have been doing, India would have thought of securing its own, let's say, like, maritime space. Means, like, if I draw the southern portion of India, right? So if we draw the southern portion of India, so, like, over here somewhere, let's say over here somewhere, we have, let's say, this Strait of Malacca, or it is also known as Malacca Strait. Okay, it is known as Malacca Strait. So this Malacca Strait is not a sovereign territory of India, but it is very near to India. What would have been India's position? India's position would have been to secure its, right, secure its maritime regions. Okay, secure its maritime regions. So that's the thing. So India may have stationed its navy or maybe coast guard near to the coastlines of India, so that we can safeguard our territorial waters, right, from any kind of incursion of or aggression of the big powers in this region. So the author says that there are limitations to what India can do in the event of a US-China conflict over Taiwan. Okay, US-China conflict over Taiwan, and in this article they have mentioned many points, point by point, that there are multiple options, multiple constraints in this regard. Means, like, what are the constraints related to India? First, distant blockades away from the belligerent nation's geography can be challenged under international law. Means, one of the thing is, like, if USA creates any kind of blockade, so the thing is, India does not have to feel itself very much, let's say, connected with it. So it can be challenged under international law. What international law? The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, right? Under the UNCLOS, it can be challenged. Second thing is, the trade that passes through Strait of Malacca is not just China's economic and energy lifeline. An overwhelming volume of Japan, South Korea, and even India itself passes through the same strait. That's the thing. Third, the channel of the Strait of Malacca is long, nearly 500 miles, and involves the sovereignty of other states such as Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, who would be affected adversely by the naval blockade. So there are other countries also that are involved. So India does not have to feel itself very insecure about this particular thing. So they have said that what are the constraints related to, let's say, India's action in this region. So he has mentioned many such points, right? I think 6-7 points he has mentioned. So the thing is, like, you need to go through these points to understand little bit, but like what we have discussed is an overview of the total article. Okay, so the thing is, like, it has not happened very recently, it has happened last year. So the author has talked about that, like, China has stationed its naval forces over there. Now we came to another topic. It says move towards EFIR, but with a caution. So let us discuss about what is FIR. FIR stands for First Information Report. Okay, First Information Report. So if we talk about First Information Report, so in case of First Information Report, there is always an aggrieved party. Okay, there is always an aggrieved party. Aggrieved party means on whom some kind of thing has happened for which this party wants to approach the police. It wants to report it to the police. But the thing is, like, if there is a person, like, against whom some illegal activity has happened, maybe a theft has happened, maybe someone has tried to assault that person, maybe someone has kidnapped a family member of this particular person, means an aggrieved party is always there, right? Aggrieved party is always known. I mean, like, in case of an FIR. So aggrieved party itself goes to a police station. Okay, aggrieved party goes to a police station, and they go to a police station to file an FIR, First Information Report. In case of normal FIR, it takes around, let's say, like, it is mandated that a person should report it to the police within 24 hours of the incident happening. This is mandated. But in many cases, maybe, like, there are rape related thing, the accused herself is not willing to go and report because her identity may get leaked, right? So once it becomes publicly known, so the thing is, in that case, I mean, like, there can be societal implications also on that aggrieved party. So in that case, the FIR may be launched at may be reported at a later date also. Recently we have seen related to wrestlers protest, the wrestlers were trying to file an FIR against an influential personality, right, and an influential minister, right? But the thing is, like, their FIRs were not launched, or their FIR were not reported by the police, right? So they have struggled a lot, and the FIR was launched only after from the direction of the Supreme Court of India. Once the Supreme Court of India has pressurized the police that you should, let's say, like, file the FIR, if you should launch the FIR, only then it was launched. So the thing is, like, getting a FIR launched or getting a FIR registered in a police station is not easy. You can go to the police station and the police personnel may say whatever you have written, you altered the text, means like they can force you to alter the text before filing the FIR. This can be one thing. Other thing is, like, they may deny also filing an FIR against, like, if they consider that, this is being launched against a very influential personality. So these are the instances, these are the cases that are there. So recently what has happened, the Law Commission of India, so there is a body which is Law Commission of India, in short I am writing LCI. So it has released a report, its report number. Okay, if I talk about the report number, so according to its report number 282, they have talked about an EFIR. Okay, they have talked about what? An EFIR. So what is an EFIR? It is a FIR that can be launched online. Okay, and if we talk about the law and order thing, so law and order is a state subject. Okay, law and order is a state subject. Okay, so the thing is, it is in the domain of various state governments to make provision for online filing of complaints, to make provision for EFIR. And presently there are some states, around 6 states I think in this article they have mentioned, that have the facility that you can launch an FIR online as well. You do not need to go to the police station to launch an FIR. There are some of the states that are that way. I think Delhi is there, UP is there. There are some other states also where you can you can launch an FIR online. Means a person who is aggrieved, they necessarily do not have to visit the police station. That's the thing. But the thing is, like, here the Law Commission of India in its report has talked about let's say creating an e-FIR portal, creating a portal that will have the facility of launching FIR in certain cases. What are those certain cases? We are going to discuss, okay, quickly, like we are going to discuss about those cases. So they have said that this e-FIR should be launched by persons in case it is a cognizable offense, okay, cognizable. Offense means a person can file an e-FIR, right? But the thing is, like, police will consider it to be a FIR only if it is a cognizable offense that attracts at least 3 years of, right? At least 3 years of imprisonment. Means, like, for those offenses that attracts at least 3 years of imprisonment, in that cases they can accept the e-FIR. And we are talking about Law Commission report, Law Commission of India report, okay, we are not talking about the actual e-FIR, report 282. So this Law Commission of India report 282 says that a person there should be provisions that e-FIR can be filed, but these should be filed only in case of cognizable offense that attracts 3 years of imprisonment. And at the same time, the Law Commission has also said that this should be launched again unknown persons only. Unknown persons only means, for example, a kidnapping activity happened with one of your family members. He or she is kidnapped. Now you don't know who has, let's say, kidnapped the person. So in that case, you can launch an e-FIR. If you actually know the culprit for any offense that the person has done, you should go to a police station so that the police can talk to you to get more information about the accused, and so that, they can quickly proceed with the cases. So they have mentioned it this way. But author says that, Law Commission of India report, that they have said that we need to move with e-FIR, but there should be caution. I mean, we should not make e-FIR mandatory, right? We should not make e-FIR to be a kind of supplementary, or let's say alternative to the actual FIR that the police are filing, right? So here they have mandated other things also, that those people, those aggrieved party, okay, the aggrieved party who are filing the case, right, the aggrieved party, their identity should be established. Means, like, if they are filing FIR, it should be let's say known that who is filing the FIR. Means, like, for that they have said that Aadhaar card may be used, Aadhaar authentication may be used, right? In which case, let's say OTP will go to the person, right? OTP will go to the person mobile, and once the OTP is authenticated, this can be done. And in this article also they have mentioned that, in the Law Commission report they have said that all those persons who are jailed, those people who are in jail, and if there are people who want to visit that person, right, who want to visit that person, they are visitors. So their identity should also be authenticated, okay, their ID should also be authenticated. Means those people who are jailed, so their ID should be authenticated in the sense their Aadhaar numbers must be available with the police, and also those people who are visiting these convicts, visiting these people, their ID should also be authenticated. So now let us understand what can be the rationale behind it. Rationale can be many, okay. Let's consider there is a person, this particular person who is in jail, okay. This person is in jail, and any XYZ person wants to visit this person in the jail, right? This person wants to visit. So the thing is, it should be in the records of the prison officials which persons are meeting him. If it is not in the record, so they will not be knowing that, this person can be a very much mastermind, like a kind of gangster. So many gangsters are there who are operating from within the jail also. There are people who visit the gangster, they pass on information, they take direction and they carry out the business. Okay, so this is the thing. Maybe like this can be one of the rationale that visitors ID may also be authenticated. Okay, this can be one of the rationale. There can be many other reasons also. Like generally what happens inside the prison, outside people come, they meet, but like they generally do not kill, because like if you want to visit the prison, your checks are already done. All the belongings that you have that are of metal that can harm a person, they are kept outside the prison premises itself. Let's say like let's say generally what has happened, let's say this is the prison. Okay, this is the prison and this is the area. If you want to enter from here, here all the checks and due diligence will be done, all your belongings will be kept away before you actually enter the prison, before you actually meet a person. So the thing is, you are very far away from let's say carrying the weapons with you to kill it. Generally extrajudicial killings happen. Extrajudicial killings means those people who are inside the prison, if they are killed inside the prison, so it can be by inmates, other inmates also. It can be, let's say, a kind of hate between people. So like fight may broke up and like people may be killed. Yeah, two gangsters fighting inside the prison may happen, right? So this is the thing. So in this article they have talked about that we can move with EFIR but with a caution. So author says it would be better if the use of e-authentication technique is mandated for the verification of complainant and an EFIR is registered immediately. He has said EFIR should be registered immediately. Why? Because there are good things also related to EFIRs. Okay, what are the good things? We will talk about this, right? There are two important points that the author has talked about related to EFIR, right? One thing is, generally we have seen if a person is going and trying to file an FIR, many a times police get one or other excuse, they give one or other excuse to not file an FIR. So if EFIR provision is there, so there will be mandatory filing, automatic filing will happen. Okay, mandatory filing, because automatically the information will be recorded, right, and it will directly come to the police station. So filing already happened. Second thing is like once you reach the police personals, they may ask you to change this thing, that thing. So the thing is like you can write whatever you feel is right if you are filing an EFIR. So originality, right, originality of contents can be, contents or facts can be ensured. But in this recommendation of the Law Commission, they said that like initially filing of EFIR will not be considered as an alternative to FIR. So this will be just notified as something which is given in a piece of paper, and then within a week, right, within a week that person has to file, let's say sign this particular thing, only then it will become, it will be considered as an FIR, otherwise like it will be nullified. Okay, but in this article the author is saying that instead of doing the signature related thing, you mandate the e-authentication. What? E-authentication means like verify the identity of the personal through Aadhaar thing, right? After doing e-authentication, you make it, the EFIR should be equated with FIR. So this is what the author is suggesting in this article. Okay, so this is related to what? Law and order reforms. It is associated with police reform also, right? So we have two questions. With reference to the EFIR, consider the following statements. This is directly from this article. It says the Law Commission of India has recommended allowing the registration of electronic first information reports for all cognizable offences where the accused is not known, right? It has recommended only, Law Commission of India, in its report number 282. The registration of such reports for all cognizable offences with a maximum punishment of 5 years where the identity of the accused is known. So it is not 5 years, it is minimum punishment of 3 years should be there. So Second statement is wrong.
We are seeing maximum punishment.
हाँ नहीं मतलब यहाँ पे maximum है, but like it is minimum punishment of 3 years. Maximum can be 7 years, can be 14 years, so it can be lifetime also.
But sir, they are mentioned when the accused is known, not unknown.
हाँ मतलब like this statement is wrong. First statement is right. So like which statements are correct? So the thing is only first statement is correct. Okay, first statement is correct. First statement says, so we have understood the first statement. Second statement, registration of such reports of all cognizable offences with a maximum punishment of 3 where the identity of the accused is known. Okay, means like maximum punishment should be 3 where the identity of the accused is known. Where it is not known, so in that case, like they have mentioned this thing, EFR, right? So this is. Now we have another topic, importance of loss and damage funds. This is a very important topic. This is related to GS paper 3. It is part of environment and ecology. It is a very important topic, environment and ecology related thing. So when we talk about loss and damage funds, so we are going to discuss about it quickly. So let's understand this topic. Name of the topic is importance of loss and damage funds. Importance of loss and damage funds. Okay, importance of loss and damage funds. So now let us understand what is loss and damage fund first. Then we are going to understand in detail about this topic, right? So to understand the loss and damage fund, we need to understand, right, loss and damage funds. So loss and damage fund is a kind of fund that has been, let's say, conceived, that has been thought about in the 19th Conference of Party. Okay, this has been thought about in 19th COP to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, right? So this particular 19th convention that has happened, this 19th convention has happened in Poland. Okay, it has happened in Warsaw, Poland. Right, this thing has happened in Warsaw, Poland in 2013. So they have said that there should be a creation of a loss and damage fund. So we need to understand what do we mean by loss and damage fund and why it is needed. So the thing is, for this purpose, we need to understand that initially they have thought about creating loss and damage fund, and this loss and damage fund is related to, like, all the losses of lives. And the thing is like damage that happens because of climate disasters. Okay, we are talking about climate disasters or climate change that happens. These climate disasters lead to, let's say, like damage of properties, right? Damage of properties happen, and also people are killed. Okay, people are killed means like people or loss of lives happen. We can say loss of lives happen. So related to this, there is an idea which is known as accountability of historic pollution. Okay, there is an idea which is known as accountability of historic pollution. So it is an important part, accountability of historic pollution. So the thing is like those countries that are developed now, okay, those countries that are developed now, so these countries have achieved their development by polluting the environment. They have adopted some kind of, let's say, developmental path that have changed the let's say, like climate. So it has led to the increase of global warming. Okay, their actions have led to the increase of global warming. So like it was widely accepted that, like, there should be accountability of the developed countries. Okay, accountability of whom? Accountability of the developed countries. And developed countries have also pledged that, like, yes, like, there is accountability and we are going to compensate for this. So there was a Paris Agreement. Okay, there was a Paris Agreement, and this Paris Agreement was signed by people in the Conference of Parties, right, COP. that has happened in 2015, right? And this COP was under UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, right? So under this, all the countries, like there are many countries in the world, around 161 countries. So these countries have taken pledge that that we will not allow the global warming to increase beyond 1.5 degrees centigrade as compared to pre-industrial level, and so far as practicable, we will not let it increase by 2 degrees centigrade by the year of 2100, right, as compared to pre-industrial level. So we are talking about this increase in temperature, right, increase in temperature as compared to pre-industrial level. Okay, so this is the target that was set. So a loss and damage fund has been established, but different countries did not agree where this loss and damage fund will be created. Will it be part of the World Bank? So many countries opposed that it should not be part of the World Bank. Okay, although those countries agreed that we are going to support this fund, we are going to give money to this fund. So while creating this loss and damage fund, so this was agreed that the thing is that developed countries would provide money, right, to this loss and damage fund that would be used for developing countries, for compensating for the change in the pathways for their own development. Okay, so it was only said that the developed countries will contribute money. Okay, the developed countries would contribute what? Money. But the thing is, like, it was not said that what amount will be, right? Amount is not fixed, duration is not fixed, right? Duration is not fixed. How developing country will receive it, it is also not fixed. So this loss and damage fund is now, at this point of time, it's just a kind of piece of paper that is there. It's still a concept, it is not in practice. That's the thing. So author is saying that there is importance of the loss and damage fund, and in this article they have talked about the price of climate change. Because of climate change, what has happened, there have been huge number of instances in the past 1 decade. Huge number of lives have been lost. Around 10,139 people have died because of the climate related aspects, and there have been loss totaling to $925.6 billion. Okay, but the thing is, this loss and damage fund, people have not given, let's say, importance to this. Recently we have seen flood, right, in Singtam, Sikkim, because of glacial lake outburst flood. Okay, so a kind of glacial lake outburst flood has happened in Sikkim. Because of this, people were killed, there have been damages to property, but there is no contribution of any loss and damage fund. Okay, this is the thing. So they have said that this loss and damage fund does have importance, and in this article they have discussed about a concept which is known as adaptability. What? Adaptability. Okay, adaptability. So what do we mean by adaptability? Adaptability means if the climate is changing, we need to adapt ourselves to the changing climate. But author says that adaptability and loss and damage fund should not be considered isolated thing. They should be taken together. People will develop their capacity of adaptability, right, if you have sufficient fund in the loss and damage, so that this fund can be utilized for, right, fund can be utilized for mitigating the risk of the climate change. If we are doing something for mitigating the risk of climate change, then we can think of adapting to it also. But on one side, if people are damaging the environment, on other side other people are just adapting to it, so it is going to aggravate the situation. Okay, it is going to make the situation worse. Okay, so this is what is said in this article. Okay, they have discussed about this loss and damage fund. Now we have another topic. This is a very short topic we are going to discuss. Kerala forms organic farming mission to boost agriculture. So recently government of Kerala has created a organic farming mission. Okay, organic farming mission, and as part of this mission they are going to promote, right, the adoption of sustainable organic climate smart farming practices in the state. And the thing is, like, you know, there are many areas in the state that are managed by let's say, like, you know, the department, agricultural department, and at least 10% of the land under that agriculture department will be used for cultivation of organic farming related thing. So this is the thing, much detail is not given. So they have said that the mission aims at expanding the organic farming to 5,000 hectares in the next 5 years. So they want to target for 1,000 hectare of cultivation per year in organic farming related things. So it's a good concept. Organic farming means here we are not going to use chemical fertilizers, we are not going to use pesticides. Instead of this, we are going to use organically produced things, right? Means like we are going to use, let's say, natural fertilizers can be used. I mean, like, you know, that do not have organic like, you know, chemical content. So this is the thing. So this is a good thing. So now, with reference to organic farming mission, we have a question. Consider the following statements. As it encourages the adoption of sustainable, organic and climate smart farming practices, okay? So it encourages, this is right. This mission also ensuring that farmers have access to good quality seeds and production equipment or material. This is also right. I mean, like, you know, so this is the thing, both these statements are right. These are normal statements related to organic farming, okay? So with this, like, we will move to another topic. It says world with overshoot 2030 fossil fuel limit by twice over. So recently a report was published. This is known as the production gap report, okay? What is the report? The production gap report. The production gap report 2023 was released last week itself, the production gap report. And this report says, like, you know, actually different countries have adopted sustainable development goal that by the year 2030 we are going to phase out the fossil fuels, usage of fossil fuels. We are going to move to alternative sources of energy. But recently a report was published which is known as the production gap report. According to this report, they say, like, you know, people will cross the, let's say, fossil fuel usage limit more than 2%, like, you know, 200 times. So there it is going to overshoot, right? So it is going to overshoot over 200, like 200 percentage, means, like, you know, more than 2 times. So this report is released by many organizations together. One of the organization is United Nations Environment Program, okay? One of the organization is UNEP. Apart from this, many other organizations, they have together released it. One is International Institute for Sustainable Development, IASC, International Institute for Sustainable Development, IASD. Other is, let's say, like, you know, this is Climate Analytics, E3G, okay? There is E3G, Climate Analytics, and there is another Stockholm Environment Institute, okay? Stockholm Environment Institute. So these are all part of it, part of this report. But we need to understand that United Nations Environment Program has a good, let's say, participation in this production gap report. So they have just talked about production gap report, and, like, you know, very soon we are going to have a conference of parties summit in Dubai. So at least 190 countries are going to participate over here. And in the conference of parties to the UN FCCC, they should discuss about how do we reduce the emission, right? So they are talking about emission gap report. One thing is targeted, and now they are doing much more than that, okay? Means, like, you know, the limitation should be there, but limitation has been already breached. Right. And the thing is, yes, and many countries have adopted a target of net zero. Net zero. So many countries have adopted a target by 2050. Some countries have taken a target to 2070. And India has also taken a target of achieving net zero carbon emission by 2070. Net zero means, like, you know, there should be overall, like, you know, yeah. So the thing is, if we are emitting carbon dioxide, we should also sink it, or, like, you know, we should also sequester the carbon. This is known as carbon sequestration. This is another topic. European Union moves closer to starting accession talks with Kyiv. Kyiv means we are talking about Ukraine, right? So Ukraine may soon become a member of the European Union, okay? European Union. So European Union Commission, they have recently talked that, like, now we can initiate the talk with Ukraine, and they should formally participate in the, let's say, like, joining the European Union. So there are two countries that they have discussed. One country is Ukraine and other country is Moldova. Okay, Moldova. Much is not given in this article, but like we need to understand, earlier Ukraine was trying to become a member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, but like, it has also applied to become a member of the European Union. So maybe like it becomes a member of European Union soon, within 5 years time period. I mean, like, it's not going to happen in a day. It's like many members are there, they should agree to this thing.
This is the intimacy
Right,
of the EU.
right,
First of all, when Ukraine was needing the help, we needed help. Now when the crisis is about to end, now they are coming for help.
right. So this is the thing, this is what happens. I mean, like, those countries who are peacefully living, they don't want to necessarily jump into a warfare. War will always give damages and losses to you. I mean, like, no war has given benefit to people. So like when both parties get, let's say, damages, their lives are lost. There are parties whose lives, let's say, where there are more number of people get killed, more damages happen. In some cases, less number of people get killed, less damages happen, but like it causes collective destruction, war. So this is the thing. So it says WHO hailed India's success in managing TB ministry. So recently the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has talked about that World Health Organization has recently released a report which is known as Global TB Report. Okay, what is the report? Global TB Report. So this Global TB Report of 2023 that has been released by the this World Health Organization. Okay, it talks about that India has done a lot in terms of, let's say, detecting more number of TB, detection of TB, and also administering kind of measures so that, like, people, like, we can move towards eliminating TB. So World Health Organization has a strategy which is known as End TB strategy. Okay, it is End TB strategy. Okay, according to this End TB strategy, they want to reduce the prevalence of TB by 50% by the year of 2025. And if we talk about India, Government of India has a portal which is known as Nikshay portal. Then we have TB Mukt Bharat Abhiyan also. TB Mukt Bharat, Pradhan Mantri TB Mukt Bharat Abhiyan, like that. And many other programs are there. So what is TB? Tuberculosis. It is a bacterial disease. It is caused by a bacteria which is known as Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Okay, Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So it is caused by a bacteria, and it affects the lung, okay, and the other organs that are nearby lung. So these are known as pulmonary TB and extrapulmonary TB. Okay, so like this is the thing. So this report actually, like, this talks about that India's efforts resulted in the reduction of TB incidence by 16% from 2015 to 2022, almost double the pace at which global TB incidence is declining. Global TB incidence is declining by 8.7%, but India, it is declining by 16%. This is the thing. Now this is the last article for the day. It says RBI may cut rates in 2024-25 if food inflation is tamed. So recently what has happened, Standards and Poor's, it's a rating agency, Standard and Poor's, global rating agency, right? What they have done, they have, let's say, recently released a report where they have said that the Reserve Bank of India may cut the, let's say, like, rates. What are rates? Repo rates, reverse repo rate, and bank rate, many other rates are there. So these rates, like, in its monthly monetary policy, they tweak these rates to keep the inflation at a certain level. I mean, like, they do not want deflation to happen, They do not want hyperinflation to happen. They want to keep inflation happening, but at a certain limited bracket. Okay, for that it keeps on tweaking the thing. So this particular organization has predicted that, like, if certain situations are met, in that case the Reserve Bank of India may, right, cut down the rates. Okay, cut down the rates if the food inflation is tamed. If food inflation is kept under control, so Reserve Bank of India may cut down the rates also. So this is what is said, right? So much is not said in this article. So that's all from my side for the day. Thank you so much everyone for attending today's session. I hope you have a good day ahead. Thank you.